There is a very specific silence that hangs over a relationship with a narcissistic person. It's not the silence of peace, but the silence of what is unsaid, of what is hidden in the folds of the early morning, in the anonymous tabs of the browser, or in business trips that never quite make sense. You, as an intelligent and intuitive woman, have probably already felt this dissonance. It's that feeling of sleeping next to a body that is physically present, but whose mind inhabits an underworld to which you have no access. Maybe you experienced the overwhelming beginning, where the chemistry felt otherworldly, only to see that passion transform, without warning, into a mechanical coldness, or into sexual demands that made you feel less like a partner and more like a prop. Or perhaps the scenario is the opposite, a partner who preaches morality, who criticizes the deviations of others, who presents themselves as the pillar of the traditional family, but who carries a heavy aura, a look that doesn't match their words. The brutal truth, which few people have the courage to discuss openly, is that the narcissistic personality structure almost always requires a double life. It's not an accident. It's not a mistake along the way. It is a psychological necessity. For the narcissist, sexuality is never about connection, intimacy, or mutual exchange. It is about regulation, power, and supply. And to keep the supply flowing, they construct a parallel reality, a psychological basement where desires, behaviors, and interactions dwell that would destroy the public image they spend so much time polishing. Today, we are not just going to talk about cheating. Cheating is too simplistic a term for what happens here. We are going to go down the steps of that basement and shine a light on the architecture of narcissistic sexuality. You will understand why intimacy with you seemed to dwindle as commitment grew, and what exactly was happening behind the scenes. Prepare yourself, because what we are about to uncover will rewrite the history of your relationship and remove the burden of guilt that was never yours to carry. My name is Lauren Mitchell. My purpose with this channel is to show that the problem was never you, and more importantly, that you are not alone. If you still carry doubts, guilt, or confusion about what you experienced, look no further. My ebook is the only guide that gathers, in a profound and completely supportive way, everything that no one has ever explained to you about narcissistic abuse. It will give you the clarity you have waited years for. Access my ebook and learn about the benefits for channel members through the link in the description of this video. To understand the narcissist's double sexual life, we need to dissect the first major psychological pillar, compartmentalization. A healthy mind seeks integration. You want to have sex with the person you love, admire, and trust. For you, desire grows with intimacy. For the narcissist, intimacy is a threat. Intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability, for them, is weakness. Therefore, they operate under a drastic psychic split, often referred to in psychology as the Madonna whore complex. Although it applies to any gender, it works like this. They categorize people into two distinct boxes. In box 1 is the respectable partner, you. You are the source of stable supply. You take care of the home, the social image, perhaps the children. You are the substitute mother-father who offers security. But, in their distorted mind, you cannot be dirty. You cannot be the object of perverse fantasies or rampant desire, because you represent stability. And, paradoxically, they begin to feel boredom, or even sexual repulsion towards the one they respect, or who offers them emotional security. In box 2 is the object for use. This includes mistresses, sex workers, cam girls, or casual app partners. These people are not seen as complete human beings. They are seen as objects for high-intensity use. With these people, the narcissist can carry out the darkest fantasies, be dominant, be submissive, be degrading, without the risk of real intimacy. This is why a double life is inevitable for them. They need you to maintain the facade of normalcy and status, but they need the secret life to discharge the impulses they cannot integrate into a loving relationship. You felt confused because you were trying to be both things, the loyal partner and the passionate lover. But the more you tried to please, the more he distanced himself sexually. He could not process you in those two positions simultaneously. The double life is not about you not being enough. It is about him being structurally incapable of merging respect with excitement. This leads us to the second pillar, which explains the compulsive nature of this double life. The narcissist lives in a perpetual state of inner boredom. It is a deep existential void. They don't have a solid self that is content with peace, with the nice routine of a Sunday morning, with the stability of a quiet love. For them, stability tastes like death. They need constant stimulation to feel alive, and the quickest, cheapest, and most potent way to get that stimulation is through sexual dopamine. The narcissist's secret sex life works exactly like drug addiction. This is where excessive pornography, sexting with strangers, voyeurism, and promiscuity come in. It is not about the search for another special person. It is about the search for novelty. The new person, or the new fantasy, offers a dopamine rush that you, as a constant and known partner, cannot offer biologically. The narcissist's brain quickly habituates to what it has and begins to despise what is familiar. This incessant pursuit of novelty creates a secret life full of risks. They love the adrenaline of doing something forbidden, meeting someone on their lunch break, exchanging erotic messages while you are sitting next to them on the couch watching a movie. This adrenaline is what they mistake for vitality. Many victims discover, horrified, that their partners spent hours on escort sites or consumed types of pornography that escalated to bizarre levels of violence or degradation. This happens because, like any addiction, the dose needs to increase. Vanilla sex with love and connection does not generate the chemical peak they desperately need to fill the black hole within them. The double life is the dopamine syringe they use to endure their own empty existence. The third pillar is perhaps the darkest and the most important for you to understand the intrinsic malice of this dynamic. The double sexual life is not just a search for pleasure. It is a search for power. Narcissists are obsessed with control, and there is no greater form of control than knowing something the other person doesn't know. There is a term for the pleasure they feel in deceiving someone: duping delight. When the narcissist comes home, kisses you on the cheek, asks how your day was, while his mind replays the images of what he secretly did or saw 2 hours ago, he feels a surge of superiority. He looks at you and thinks, "She has no idea. I am smarter. I control her reality." The secret life is an act of hostility against you. Every betrayal, every hidden message, every dollar spent on paid sex is a way of devaluing you without your knowledge. It is a way for them to assert absolute autonomy. I do what I want, and you're still here, taking care of me. This explains why often they leave clues: a receipt that shouldn't be there, the phone unlocked by accident. Part of them wants you to suspect, only so they can deny it and call you crazy. Gaslighting. This feeds their ego. Seeing you insecure, investigating, crying, validates their importance. Furthermore, the objectification is total. In the secret life, people are just bodies, pieces of meat. They don't have to ask about the mistress's day. They don't have to worry about the feelings of the person in the chat. It is the ideal scenario for the narcissist. Instant gratification without emotional cost. They treat these external people as disposable, and upon returning home, they treat you as a guaranteed property. It is an inhumane human resource management, where every person in their life has a utilitarian function, and no one is seen as a complete human being. By looking at these 3 pillars, compartmentalization, dopamine addiction, and the power of the secret, the complete picture forms. That feeling that there was an invisible barrier between you and bed, it was real. The intuition that he was mentally absent, it was accurate. The suspicion that his public morality was a sham, you were right all along. You need to understand this to stop internalizing the sexual rejection or the betrayal as a measure of your worth. The narcissist's double sexual life is inevitable because their psychic structure cannot support reality. They live in a fantasy. In the fantasy, they are sexual gods, conquerors, beings above the rules. Reality, bills to pay, aging, real intimacy, vulnerability, is unbearable for them. They used the secret life to escape reality, and they used you to keep the facade of that reality running. You were the anchor that allowed their boat to navigate troubled waters without completely sinking. The clarity you seek does not come from finding out who the other person is or how many times it happened. Clarity comes from realizing that even if you were the most perfect, seductive, and compliant woman in the world, the double life would still exist. Because the whole is not in you. The whole is in the soul of someone who needs to split the world into pieces to be able to tolerate themselves. You now have the map. You know what was operating in the shadows. And with this knowledge, the power returns to your hands. The power to no longer compete with ghosts, to no longer try to fill a bottomless void, and to recognize that your capacity to love and give yourself entirely is not a weakness, but your greatest virtue, a virtue that deserves to be shared with someone who has the integrity to live a single, whole, and true life by your side. Feel free to leave your testimony, your venting, or even a suggestion for a topic for the next video in the comments below. Access the link in the description to check out my ebook and the benefits for members of this channel. Click on the suggested video on the screen to continue with me, and remember, you are light. Never forget to shine.